Hey, what's happening, everyone? So I am on my way to see the new version of It. I was looking forward to this movie, but after the reviews that I've seen so far, like, they've been really impressive, like very positive reviews. So I'm actually really looking forward to this one now, like more than I was before. So yeah, because, you know, let's face it, horror movies these days ain't so great. They're not that scary. But from what I've heard, this one really gets under your skin and, you know, yeah, quite disturbing. So, I'm gonna go check it out, let you know what I think. Cue the intro. Alrighty, so I have been to see It. Was it any good? Before I tell you about It, I just want to say for a moment thank you to everybody who's been subscribing to my channel lately. I really appreciate it. If you want to get on board, if you want to subscribe, down in the corner there's a little movie talk symbol. All you need to do is click on that and it'll bring up a little subscribe thing that you can click on and join the party. So this new version of It is based on the famous Stephen King novel, of course. It's been previously adapted into a mini-series, a 3-hour thing, which came out in 1990. Now, I was never a really big fan of it, to be perfectly honest with you. I found it a little bit slow. Granted, I haven't seen it since then, but yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of it. This new version, however, looked really promising, and it wasn't until the last couple of days where I've been reading a lot of reviews that have been overwhelmingly positive and people saying it is genuinely scary that my anticipation of the film had gone right up, and I was really looking forward to seeing it. So the story, it's pretty simple. It's about a group of kids who are kind of outcasts. They call themselves the Losers, and they live in a town where every 27 years this evil presence manifests itself to feast on children. And this thing manifests itself in the form of various fears that these kids experience, including a clown named Pennywise. So one thing I heard was that, you know, a lot of things in this movie were genuinely terrifying, and I gotta say, holy crap, were they ever. This was a really scary film in parts. Aside from that, it was brilliantly directed by Andy Muschietti, and everything about it, the performances from the kids were out of this world. They were so believable as these characters, and I like that they didn't pick any sort of well-known established actors. It just gave the characters a little bit more believability, and also the setting. It was set in the late 80s, and it was very authentic. Like, I really found a lot of connection to this film because, look, you know, truth be told, I haven't always been this awesome, this, you know, kind of suave, sophisticated rock star of a guy. Oh, Jesus. I really felt like one of these kids growing up, you know, someone who just sort of connected with other nerds, I guess. And yeah, these characters were very believable, especially the way they spoke. You know, there was a lot of jokes about your mom and your sister and, you know, things like that. And, you know, it was pretty funny, but it was just very believable and I liked it. And aside from that, these characters were so well written. Now, I can't really compare this to the book because I haven't read it. And to be honest, I don't really remember the miniseries version. But there were some great backstories to some of the kids, particularly the girl of the group, Beverly. Man, her backstory, or what, not really backstory, her current story, what she was going through with her father, which I won't say too much, but it was heartbreaking stuff. Like, it was really hard to watch. A lot of the horror in this film wasn't from Pennywise the Clown, but, you know, what these kids were going through with traumatic upbringings and bullying and things like that. There was some really harsh scenes in the film. But above all, I've got to hand it to Bill Skarsgård as the new version of Pennywise. Oh my God. I was absolutely magnetized every time he was on screen. He was a force to be reckoned with. I would put him up there with the classic horror villains, with Freddy, Jason, all those characters. And I know the purists are going to say, yeah, but Pennywise has been done before. Tim Curry did it, but this version, oh man, he was so captivating. Not just in his performance, but, you know, there were just all these little things I loved about the character, like the fact that his eyes were slightly askew and that he often had water just dribbling out of his mouth, and, you know, just these little nuances that just added so much to the fear of this character. And yes, seriously, some of the moments in this film had me clenching my hands and just tensing in the seat. There's only very limited jump scares in the film, and they were justified, but there are just some moments in this thing that are just creepy. I'm talking slow things that happen that you just can't keep your eyes away from the screen. You can't quite believe what you're looking at right now, but oh my god, there was some incredible horror imagery in this film, particularly one scene in a library, which, oh man, forget about it. That just got me. And also, you know the scene in the trailer where they're watching the projector and, Pennywise appears in these quick succession of slides? I'm glad they didn't show too much in that, because what happens after that? Oh, wow, yeah, it was pretty full on. And I love the authenticity of the 80s vibe that this film went through. Like, a lot of the camera work, there was a lot of these cool sort of overhead shots and a desaturated color palette that just gave it a real 80s feel. But while there was so much of this film I loved, it wasn't quite perfect. I think the main thing for me was that even though some of the scenes in the film were up there with the scariest things I've ever seen in a horror film, I'm talking about like the entirety of horror movie history, I just didn't feel that there was like a lingering sense of horror or dread throughout the whole thing. When you had all these scenes, but in between it was like the kids trying to figure out how to beat the evil and stuff like that. Which were great, don't get me wrong, there was a lot of really brilliant character building and stuff going on in between those scenes, but I don't know, I just, in between when the shit was going down, I just didn't really feel there was that much of a threat. And look, I might be totally in the minority here. I'm sure there's probably some people out there who will watch it and think differently, but for me, I would have liked just an overall dark cloud hanging over this film. And the only other thing, there were just a few scenes here and there of exposition, which I thought they could have done with showing instead of telling, like one kid talking about how his parents, died in a house fire, and I don't know, he's sitting there telling the story, but I kind of thought they could have maybe used some imagery to show what he was talking about. But look, at the end of the day, this movie is well worth a watch. I was so pleased with how great this film turned out to be. This is, from what I remember of the original version, this is far better. This is one movie I will definitely be wanting to watch again. Definitely going to own it on Blu-ray, and I'm really hoping that this version of Pennywise is going to enter the Horror Villain Hall of Fame, because he really deserves to be there. So despite its few flaws, I really dug this movie, and I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. So what did you guys think? I mean, I know a lot of people have seen this movie by now, so I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. And what were your thoughts on this version compared to the 1990 miniseries, which I'm definitely going to watch again because this movie's inspired me to want to watch it. But what were your thoughts on the two versions? So comment away, and also I'm going to be doing a Q&A video coming up soon. As promised, when I reach 300 subscribers, I was going to do a Q&A, so I did a video recently where people have been leaving questions. If you want to leave questions for me, drop them down below. When I do my Q&A video, which will be coming up very soon, I will give you a shout out as well, of course, when I read your question. So fire away, drop me some comments either here or on Facebook. All the social media links are in the description below, because I like to talk about movies, and I would love to talk about movies with you. I'll catch you next time.
Click subscribe to stay up to date with all the latest movie reviews. Skynet will be taking over any day now, so what have you got to lose? Nyah.